Greetings, folks. It's a pleasure to see you today. My name is Dustin Cormier. This is another episode of How to Rock Astrology. Today we are going to be finishing our discussion on the nakshatra Vishaka. In particular, we're going to be discussing its deity, Indragni, and we're going to discuss how Indragni is portrayed in the actual classical Vedas. Of course, this work is going to be coming from this book entitled The Divine Forces of the Lunar Nakshatras, as portrayed in the Vedas. The author's name is Radha. She's a Ayurvedic and sidereal jyotishi who does wonderful work discussing the jyotish, and in this book in particular, she's just got some real gems of well-studied, thoroughly digested wisdom as to the character of the deities in the nakshatras as they're portrayed in the actual Vedas. So she does great work in this book. I highly recommend it. Now, we're going to be beginning on chapter 25. She kind of does her own categorization of how she unfolds the nakshatras in this book. Now, before we begin, as I always show, each one of these deities sort of has their own classification, you could say. Interestingly, Indragni is considered to be a Vasu. It's one of the Vasus, which is kind of interesting because Indra, which is the main character of a lot of Vedic stories, Indra himself is considered to be one of the Adityas. Now, interestingly, Agni is one of the Vasus. Now, when you look at this, the Vasus are sort of like Bhum, the Rudras are like Bhuva, and then Adityas are Svaha. So the Vasus are the elements, the elemental tattvic sorts of creatures and deities. The Rudras are of the atmosphere, like Shiva, and all of the characters there are the in-between state. And then the Adityas are the deities of light, of the sons of Aditya. So the Vasus have this elemental quality to them. That's where Kritika's Lord Agni is, and that's where Indra Agni is. So Indra Agni is considered more of a Vasu than an Aditya, or one of the Adityas, which is more of Indra's thing. So it's got this elemental, earthier quality to it, Indragni, right? Takes after more Kritika in that way. So, strap in, folks, because Vishaka Nakshatra is a wonderful nakshatra. If you are interested in this, you should check out the original video I did discussing Vishaka Nakshatra from the Taittiriya Brahmana Nakshatra Sutras. And that'll be a video that you can find on my channel as well. So, let's discuss. Chapter 25. Indragni, Vishaka. Together they wax in vigor. That's Indra and Agni. They work together. They kind of come through in different ways. They wax and wane in each other's influence on the life of a person with prominent placements in Vishaka. So first we have a quote from the Rig Veda, Mandala 3, chapter 12. It says, I call the bounteous, the killers of Vritra, the united conquerors unconquered, Indragni, the greatest winners of booty. Indragni, you display the lights of heaven in your deeds of strength. That mighty deed of yours has been known far and wide. So this first chapter of this section of the book is entitled A Noble Vision. We read, the co-rulership of Vishaka by Indra and Agni is unique in two regards. Firstly, Each of these devatas also rules another nakshatra individually, which is not usually the case with these combined nakshatras necessarily. Indra rules Jyeshta Nakshatra, and Agni rules Kritika. Secondly, except for the Ashvins, the lords of Ashvini, Indragni are the only devatadvandvas is what they're called. It's a close-knit set of two devatas. So it's the devatadvandvas. It's hard to say. Devatadvandvas. So these are the only devatadvandvas to lord over a nakshatra. Nearly a dozen hymns in the Rig Veda are to their dedication as Indragni. Here, these powerful gods are declared to be the indomitable forces behind the victorious demonic battles. For growing together, they wax in vigor. Indra and Agni together. In each crusade fought, they share a noble vision: to defeat the dark forces of the universe with their light. It's interesting when you consider that the main character ascribed to Indra, Agni, and Vishaka Nakshatra in the Nakshatra Sutras is a coupling. And the coupling happens when two people share the same vision. So this is part of this noble vision quality. With a lot of placements in Vishaka, you tend to partner up with people who share the same objectives as you. So thus, the Vedic scriptures are replete with invocations of Indra Agni for conquering foes and eliminating rivals. Quote from the Taittiriya Brahmana, one of the later sections of the book: "Let our enemies, terrified, flee far away from us. Let Indra and Agni, let the two Vishakhas who are their nakshatra, accomplish that for us. So let the gods rejoice over our sacrifice. Let security be ours in the rear and in the front." Applauded for their colossal feats, this devatadvandva receives general libations of soma. The brave deeds ye have done, Indragni, the forms ye have displayed in mighty exploits, the ancient and auspicious bonds of friendship. For the sake of these, drink the flowing soma. And that's Rig Veda from the first mandala. Hearts satiated and bodies exhilarated, Indragni eagerly await their next conquest. With each victory, great wealth and booty is absconded on behalf of worshippers. Thus, having drunk your fill of our libation, win us all kinds of wealth, O Indragni. That also comes from Rig Veda, Mandala 1, same chapter, 108. As seen with Rodashi, heaven and earth, Ushashanakta, which is dawn and dusk combined, and also Mitra Varuna, it's Mitra and Varuna, and other of these Rigvedic devatadvandvas, Indragni represents distinct but complementary forces within the singularity. Agni, the shining light on earth, rules over the terrestrial plane as a Vasu. A member of the Vasus, Agni Vasumat, attended by the Vasus, serves as their leader. So Agni is the ruler of the Vasus, the earth realm. In contrast, Indra is a sun god or an Aditya. His rulership is the sphere of the heavens. Yet, as the eldest, Jyeshta, Aditya, the eldest of the Adityas, Indra roams closest to our hemisphere. In contrast, Indra's youngest brother Vishnu resides beyond the furthest region of the heavens. Interesting. So Indra is proficient at maneuvering through the tumultuous, demon-ridden atmosphere of the Bhuva, the in-between state, where the Rudras lie. Now here we have our next chapter, a king anointed into Brahmanhood. During the later Vedic period, which is featuring the Puranas and the other later literature, it's spam calls. So this is during the later Vedic period, the Puranic period. Each caste honored a particular deity as a godhead. Agni is godhead of the Brahmins, a caste knowledgeable in the Vidya of the Vedas. Chanting verses composed in Agni's meter, which is the Gayatri. A Brahmin is imbued with Agni's profundity of Brahmavarkasa, the holy luster of sacred knowledge. Well, so this caste is charged with the preservation of sacrificial vidya from one generation to the next. So Agni is considered the godhead of the Brahmins in the Puranic literature. Now, Indra, a fearless warrior king, is godhead of the Kshatriyas. Those are those destined to protect the homeland or rule a village or kingdom, who gain manly strength, mental vigor, and sharpness of senses. It's Indriya Virya. When they recite verses composed in Indra's meter, and that's the Tristubha. Possessed of Indra's mental fortitude and courage, a king is unassailable. This brings us to the stellar configuration of Vishakha, the branched or forked. It's two stars, which is considered what we would call Alpha and Beta Librae, the sidereal stars. And these stars form a fork, or two branches of a tree. That comes from the Surya Siddhanta, although Surya Siddhanta wouldn't have used Alpha and Beta Librae, would have used different star names. Now, a fork is typically emblematic of a choice in paths. But seen from a different perspective, it is two roads or branches coming together at a common junction. The two branches of Vishakha are undoubtedly the union of Indra Agni, these godheads representing sacred knowledge, the Brahmin, and sacred power, the Kshatriya. So we can see how this is a combined force of these two very important caste categorizations. This once dual-named nakshatra, that meaning Vishaka, was later identified with two additional stars. So as a stellar group of four, they appear to form a gateway or a triumphal arch. That again comes from the Surya Siddhanta. This denotes fait accompli of Indra Agni's shared noble vision. So the triumphal gateway is the sort of calling card of Vishaka and of Indra Agni, and their shared noble vision. There exists an unusual provision in the ancient Brahmanas. A king who desires knowledge in the ways of sacrifice may be anointed into Brahmanhood, all the time continuing his kingly responsibilities. However, Shastra states that as a Brahmin, the king must declare Agni as his new godhead. No longer allied with Indra, he loses his imperial powers, for Indra retracts the king's authority, courage, and mental strength. That's the Indra Virya. Now, a king can hardly be expected to perform his royal duties without the power and force of Indra behind him. For just this occasion, sacrificial protocol provides an escape clause. The king may reinstate Indra as his godhead immediately after anointment into Brahmanhood. Thus, the king maintains his Indriya Virya, and, gaining a second godhead, Agni, acquires the faculty of Brahmavarkasa. Such an enlightened and formidable king is invincible on all fronts. Such a king is the very embodiment of the devatadvandva, Indra Agni. Cool. Now, according to this same Shastra, a monarch consecrated into Brahmanhood remains first and foremost a king. Perhaps this is why Indra's attributes, powers, and acclaims dominate the personage of Indragni. Very interesting. We have a note here saying this concept is developed by an author named Ganda in the dual deities in the religion of the Veda. Now, by way of illustration, in their devatadvandva hymns, Agni wields the thunderbolt, shatters forts, and proudly boosts Indra's most cherished title, the Slayer of Vritra. He shares in the glory that Indra earned when he destroyed the 90 forts of Dashas, and he possesses Indra's heroic strength. Consistent with this nearly one-way imposition of Indra's traits is Vishaka's stipulated sacrificial desire. Recall in the Ishtis to the Nakshatras ceremony that Agni Kritika desires, "May I be an eater of food among the gods." That's Taittiriya Brahmana. While Indra, lord of Jyesta, is, "May I conquer preeminence among the gods." It's also from the Taittiriya Brahmana. Yet the joint desire of Indra Agni, which is Vishaka, is, "May we both conquer preeminence among the gods." That's Taittiriya Brahmana again. Here again, Indra's appellation takes priority. The dominance of Indra's inclinations also prevails in various sacrificial rites. Agni's mystical number is 8, for he is the leader of the 8 Vasus. Sacrificial cakes to his honor are arranged on 8 potsherds and offered with the recitation of an oblation verse composed in 3 padas of 8 syllables. That's the 24-syllabled Gayatri meter. Cool. Yet, sacrificial offerings on 11 potsherds are made to devatadvandva Indra Agni, while reciting an oblation verse composed in 4 padas of 11 syllables. That's the 44-syllabled Tristubha meter. Recall that 11 is Indra's mystical number, for he is the leader of the 11 Rudras, and the Tristubha is his sacrificial meter. In one of a dozen Rig Vedic hymns to Indra Agni, their close friendship and mutual love for the Soma draft is extolled. Moved, Indra Agni, by our hymn, "Come to the juice, the precious dew. Drink ye thereof, impelled by song, O Indra Agni. With the man who lauds you comes the waking right. So drink ye both this juice assured. Through force of sacrifice I choose Indra Agni, who love the wise. With Soma let these sate them here. Indra Agni I invoke, joint victors, bounteous, unsubdued foe slayers, best to win the spoil. Indra Agni, singers skilled in melody hymn you, bring lauds. I choose you for the sacred food. Indra Agni, ye cast down the 90 forts with which Dashas held, together with one mighty deed. To Indra Agni, reverent thoughts go forward from the holy task along the path of sacred law, Satya. O Indra Agni, powers are yours, and dwellings and delightful food. Good is your readiness to act. Indra Agni, in your deeds of might, ye deck heaven's lucid realms. Famed is that hero strength of yours. That's Rig Veda Mandala 3, chapter 12. Now herein is our next chapter. It's the sacrificial need for dual devatas or devatadvandvas. Vedic sacrifices are often performed at transitional times or occasions. For example, the Agnihotra is conducted as night turns into day at dawn, and again as day turns into night at dusk. Likewise, the Chaturmasyas, the seasonal ceremonies, are performed at the transition between seasons. Also the New Year celebration, when the sun begins its northerly path, and the Soma Yajna, when the Yajamana is born anew. The same is true of the Darsha Purnamasa. It's the new and full moon ceremony, performed every 15 days as the moon transitions from waxing to waning and from waning to waxing. Transitional periods are inherently unstable. As with the inhalation and exhalation of the breath, there is an ever so brief moment, a gap, between the two states involved. In Sanskrit, this gap is called sandhi. Jyotisha uses this term for a planet situated at the junction degree of two rashis, two constellations. I wouldn't use the word constellations as a tropical astrologer, but I'd say two rashis, two signs. Sacrificial ceremonies are conducted at sandhi times to ensure the uninterrupted continuance of the day, month, season, year, and so on. Yajnas honoring sandhi times involve the laudation of dual devatas and or devatadvandvas. According to scripture, this is because a coupling of the gods provides the required added strength. By way of illustration, let's examine the Agnihotra. At the precise moment that sunlight turns to dusk, the sacrificial fire is lit, and an offering is made to Agni and to Surya. Similarly, at the moment that dawn changes into sunlight, the fire is rekindled and an offering is made to Surya and Agni. This same sacrificial protocol occurs in the Soma Yajna, a ceremony in which the Yajamana is rebirthed. Patya, Svasti, and Aditi are honored at its commencement and closure. Together they ensure the Yajamana a safe transition from earth to heaven at the beginning of the yajna, and from heaven back to earth at its conclusion. During this same ceremony, Agni and Vishnu are offered an oblation at the moment the Yajamana is rebirthed, another transition period. In similar fashion, 2 sets of devatadvandvas are invoked during the Dasha Purnamasa, performed as the moon transitions from its waxing phase on the night of the new moon, and again as it transitions to its waning phase on the night of the full moon. Indragni and Agni Soma are the respective devatadvandvas on these 2 occasions. Their offering and oblation verses are sourced from their devatadvandvas hymns in the Rig Veda. During the Darsha Purnamasa new moon ceremony, Indra Agni is the recipient of the principal oblation. What we read from the Rig Veda is this invitation. O Indra Agni, the lights of the sky you do embrace among your invigorating powers. This heroic deed of yours is well known. That's from Rig Veda, Mandala 3, chapter 12. And then we hear this oblation. He shall slay the foe, and he does win invigorating power, he who worships Indragni, the strong ones who rule over much wealth, the most strong ones who, with strength, make use of their invigorating powers. That's from Rig Veda, Mandala 6, chapter 60. Now, at the Darsha Purnamasa full moon ceremony, the principal oblation is offered to Agni Soma. We hear this invitation comes from Rig Veda, Mandala 1, chapter 93. O Agni Soma, having one and the same common knowledge, according to one and the same common invocation, do you accept our prayers? You are born together among the gods. Now we have an oblation that comes from the same mandala, same chapter, Mandala 1, chapter 93. Ye too, Agni Soma, having one and the same common will, have placed these lights in the sky. Ye too, O Agni Soma, released the rivers from disgrace and shame when they were fast held. Now these same 2 sets of devatadvandvas are central to the Agrayanesti, the first fruits offering, performed at the harvesting of the spring and winter crops, both important transitional times. With the harvesting of barley in the spring, Indra Agni is offered a cake prepared from the newly harvested barley. In the autumn, a time for reaping rice and millet, Agni Soma is offered a cake made from those grains. It's very interesting. Now, we have a footnote here that says the other significant rules implicating Indragni and Agni Soma are the Agni Stoma, the one-day Soma offering, and Ukthya, a special ceremony performed at the evening Soma pressing. A he-goat is sacrificed to Agni Soma during the Agni Stoma and to Indra Agni at the Ukthya. Now, in light of the ceremonial significance of devatadvandvas, it seems noteworthy that Vishakha is uniquely ruled by co-devatas. What is it about this particular space in the sky that necessitates oversight by 2 of the most powerful godheads? At this point, there are significations from this author who is a sidereal practitioner. She's giving us insights into the tradition of considering the constellations of the sidereal stars to inherently relate to the character of the signs that were anciently in the space of those stars, in this case being Libra. So the author here is giving indications of something that are traditionally held, but not held by me as a tropical Vedic astrologer. But I'm still going to include them in here because it's useful for our knowledge as to the preceding understanding of this nakshatra. So the author is kind of intending to describe here that we note that Saturn is exalted at the first degree of Vishaka, and the moon is debilitated at Vishaka's final degree. Saturn being exalted at 20 degrees of Libra in Vishaka, and the moon debilitated at 3 degrees of Scorpio, which is also, again, to the sidereal tradition, considered to be held in Vishaka. In today's time, Vishaka falls into midway through tropical Scorpio, as we discussed in my first video. But I digress, it's still interesting to read. We have seen that dual or devatadvandvas are invoked for added strength and a firm foundation during transitional times. In particular, Indra Agni descends upon the sacrificial grounds during the new moon ceremony, a sacrifice conducted at that moment in time when the moon is neither waxing nor waning. It's the darkest night of the month, so it makes sense that they would be lording over that space. Now, as it relates to Vishaka, Indra Agni safeguard a critical space in the sky. Recall that in the Ishtis to the Nakshatra scriptures, a distinction is made between the Deva, Kritika Vishaka, and Yama Nakshatras. That's Anuradha and Bharani. Okay, I see. So, in the Ishtis to the Nakshatras, a distinction is made between the Deva and Yama Nakshatras. The Deva Nakshatras are considered to be Kritika to Vishaka, and the Yama Nakshatras are Anuradha to Bharani. That's sort of a split there, splitting them in half. They are associated with 2 paths traveled by the recently deceased. The Deva Nakshatras are aligned with Devayana, the path of the Devas, and overlorded by Agni. The Yama Nakshatras are identified with Pitriyana, the path of the ancestors, and have Yama as a guiding light. Note the alignment of the first and last Deva Nakshatras, Kritika and Vishaka, with Agni, and the last Yama Nakshatra, that being Bharani, with Yama. So Indra Agni, rulers of Vishaka, stand guard over the branching of these 2 paths, the path of the Devas, Devayana, and the path of the ancestors, the Pitriyana. Hence, in this case, the stellar fork of Vishaka does indeed represent the divergence of 2 paths. And this pivotal space in the sky requires oversight by the wisest of the Brahmins, Agni, and the most courageous of the Kshatriyas, that's Indra. Now again, not only is this Puranic lore, but it's also, Viktakara has noted that much of what we just described as the Pitrayana and Devayana was only signified at a time when the sun was beginning to move towards the summer solstice. That would be the vernal equinox in the northern hemisphere. So at the time that these nakshatras were written, Viktakara describes that the vernal equinox was occurring in Kritika at the time that these nakshatras were written. So this is why Kritika begins the Devayana path, and from Vishaka it begins the Pitrayana path. And these days, again, the vernal equinox is falling in a very different nakshatra now. I think it's close to Bharani at this point. I think it might be Uttara Bhadrapada. I'm not sure. But again, this brings a questioning into the nature of this particular point being made here. Still interesting to discuss again, right? So it's described for this reason, which again I question as a tropical Vedic astrologer, but again, let's still say it. A planet transiting Vishaka must possess great strength, endurance, and stability. Vishaka arouses in Saturn just such courage and fortitude. Here, Saturn is guided by spiritual knowledge. It's Agni's Brahma Varkasa, and armored with valor and mental clarity. That's Indra's Indriya Virya. With such wisdom and resolve, Saturn is an indomitable force able to traverse the most treacherous terrains. The moon is debilitated in the final day. Of course, I should say that Saturn reference, Saturn in Vishaka, is mainly because in ancient times, Saturn was considered exalted there, which it's not in today's time. Same thing with the moon debilitated here. It used to be in ancient times. The moon is the least stable of all planets because its nature changes on a daily basis. So the author deems it appropriate that the Sandhi degree between the Deva and Yama nakshatras is where the fluctuating moon is considered debilitated. All of that is really sidereal conjecture. But again, it's still fun to talk about Jyotisha and the history of it. So that's why we discuss it here on my channel. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed that. My name is Dustin Cormier. I'm How to Rock Astrology. It comes from the divine forces of the lunar nakshatras as portrayed in the Vedas by the author Radha. It's always a pleasure to read from her work. And it's always a pleasure to see you guys. I hope you're well. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the discussion. Let me know in the chat. Let me know what you think. Stay tuned. We've got lots more nakshatras to come. Lots more cool, fun knowledge to come. Thanks for hanging out and thanks for watching. I'll talk to you guys later.